College Football Enquirer with Ross Dellenger and Steven Godfrey. I am Andy Staples. And guys, this has been a crazy last about 18 hours. And this is one of those things in the podcasting where we kind of have to timestamp when we're recording and explain what we can talk about and what we can't talk about, because this Sherrone Moore situation, spiraling is probably not even the right word. It's Michigan fired Sherrone Moore for cause, said he had an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. A few hours later, word has it that he has been detained by the Saline, Michigan Police Department, turned over to the Pittsfield Township Police Department. You find out on Wednesday night that Sherrone Moore is in custody in Pittsfield Township. Guys, I don't even know where to begin with this thing.
Yeah. Never a dull day in college football, Andy. Never a dull day. It was like, I think I was here in Vegas right in the middle of a session at the SBJ Forum on Wednesday afternoon when it all started trickling out from ESPN. And somebody had just an hour before or so come up to me and said, "Man, you've had a crazy few weeks of news. It just never ends. What will today bring?" And it's just it's every day something new. So it's a shocking turn of events for those who haven't been sort of hearing the buzz all fall, which I think all of us on this pod probably did. Through most of the fall, there was enough buzz, not of the specifics that have come out, obviously, but the fact that Sherrone may have been doing some things off the field that have caught the attention of important people at Michigan, and that his job was potentially in jeopardy, and that they were going to be conducting an investigation. And the investigation obviously turned out some things that we probably, as Andy, as you alluded to, we probably shouldn't discuss of a personal matter with a woman on a podcast, but they were enough to certainly warrant his firing.
Well, and let's talk about what we will and won't talk about, because we all have the internet. And as Ross mentioned, we had all heard a lot of this before. I know some people have actually asked, well, why didn't you say anything? Well, because we couldn't prove it. Like, yeah,
right.
If you can't,
and nobody would say it on the record, right? Nobody would talk about it on the record. So
if you can't prove it and you say it and you turn out to be wrong, you're going to get sued. And so that's why. I mean, that's why we hadn't said it and sort of existed in this ether of rumor. But then also what happened last night, which clearly is something very serious. We're talking about real life and not sports anymore.
Right.
Sherrone Moore, whatever happened that caused him to be put in jail last night. And I have the media release from Pittsfield Township, which they don't name Sherrone Moore, but if you cross-reference the addresses and everything, it's him. So here's what they reported, or what they put out last night. The Pittsfield Police Department responded to the above location at the above date and time for the purposes of investigating an alleged assault. The department has received multiple media requests for information. A suspect in this case was taken into custody. That would be Sherrone Moore. The incident does not appear to be random in nature, and there appears to be no ongoing threat to the community. The suspect was lodged at the Washtenaw County Jail, pending review of charges by the Washtenaw County prosecutor. At this time, the investigation is ongoing. Given the nature of the allegations, the need to maintain the integrity of the investigation, and its current status at this time, we're prohibited from releasing additional details. It may be that by the time you hear this podcast, there are additional details. Again, we have the internet. We saw the same rumors about what happened as you did, but we're not going to get into that if we can't prove anything.
I'd like to thread that needle, and then we can maybe pivot and just say that there are stories that are college football entirety, in their nature entirety, right? Like it's just about the job. It's just about someone getting fired. It's just about the football aspects of it. Because this is not one of them, and also because there's an ongoing investigation and the sensitivity of what has been alleged, we are not ducking the human part of this. I think it's just, I would love to have a conversation once we can speak on the record about the other side of this. So if this conversation we're going to have today hews more towards the football side of it, it's not an effort to move away from the real human impact. It's honestly trying to do our own due diligence as media members and then also defer to the sensitivity of the issue. So it's a fine line we got to walk.
And people have families. This is a very tough situation. One for Sherrone Moore's family, of course, but also think about all of the staffers at Michigan, because we've all covered coaching searches. We've all covered coaching changes. Every time there's a coaching change, the football building gets wiped out, usually. And there's a bunch of people who are now going to have to move their families, find new schools for their kids, all of these things because of the actions of one guy. And they didn't do anything. These other people didn't do anything wrong. And it is very frustrating to think about that. But yeah, so that's another piece of the human impact that you might want to consider in this. But let's talk about Michigan in general, because these are things that we do need to talk about. We mentioned the rumors were out there that there was an investigation. I think there probably need to be some more questions asked, and maybe the Michigan Board of Regents might be the body that needs to ask these questions. They have an interim president at the moment. Who knew when? Why the timing of this now? Because it's interesting. It's the timing of it suggests that it wasn't completely cooked up to happen now. Because I think one theory is, we waited to see if he'd win enough games, and then if he won enough games, then we were going to let it go. But he didn't win enough games, and this allows us to fire him for free. If you were going to do that, you would have done it before National Signing Day.
Yeah, it happened. That would have happened 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. The advantage, by the way, if we need to spell this out, and I know this is a very popular theory amongst rival fan bases and just people sort of being spiteful, this would provide no advantage to Michigan right now.
No,
the cycle is effectively ended.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, it would have been incredibly convenient for Michigan. In fact, Penn State on Monday just introduced the guy that we probably would have put at the top of the board for Michigan, Matt Campbell.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, I think, Andy, that, again, going through the fall, hearing the things that I think a lot of us heard, the plan was always, I think, for them to do an investigation after the season. I think the thought was we'll do an investigation, and then, it'll, depending on what it'll turn up, is what action will take. But I think the thought was we already know everything, and we don't expect anything too crazy to turn up. Obviously something changed, and something, fairly serious in of nature was turned up to get them to take this action. But in no way is this any kind of beneficial for them. I guess you could say, and somebody mentioned this here last night to me in Vegas, was, well, they may not need a rush now, right? A lot of these schools were rushing to get a coach in before signing day. That's over. And so they at least have time, maybe until the portal opens, to do maybe a more extensive search than you would think for mid-December.
So the portal opens January 2nd.
Yeah.
And we can give the names that we've heard for the new Michigan coach. If you look at their message boards, Kalen DeBoer is the first name you see, Alabama's coach. I take that with a grain of salt, because Kalen DeBoer's name was all over the Penn State search too, and that was never serious and never a possibility. And so Kalen DeBoer has a game on Friday against Oklahoma, Friday of next week. If they win that game, they would then play Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Theoretically, Alabama's season could be over next Friday. It could be over January 1st. So you could actually push it that long if you wanted to try to hire Kalen DeBoer. Again, he'd have to be interested, and I'm not sure he is. But to Ross's point, you don't have to have someone Monday.
Yes, you don't have to have someone. But again, I want to go back and push on the idea that this was, so I often use this on other podcasts where I say, I think, I feel, I know. And it's always good to contextualize what we're talking about, where you know something as a reporter, you're working on an idea based on facts as an opinion, or it's just a feeling because I've been doing this for so long. It feels like, so I'm going to qualify the statement, this was not planned to be an advantage for Michigan, because while they do have time, and that is correct what you heard, Ross, obviously, I don't think it necessarily benefits them to be searching right now. I do think this is ultimately a detriment to them. So I want to really hammer home the point that I don't think this was calculated. And I think based on what we're hearing, that will be yet to come out and be proven and reported on. By the way, old show host Dan Wetzel was kind of at the forefront of this reporting yesterday.
Yeah, the founder of this show, Dan Wetzel, was doing the best reporting on this.
Yeah.
Michigan local,
as he often does.
Michigan local, hitting up the police department. Yeah,
those Michigan sources are working good for him. I told someone the other day, like this is Dan's Lane Kiffin LSU story that for me a month ago or so. It's this, and he did a great job with it. He's done a great job with it because I'm sure it's far from over.
No, I think there would be a lot of very, very powerful details yet to come. I agree that yes, they don't have to necessarily scramble to meet a signing day, and there is a window with the portal. But let's talk about this is a job that should cast a net. It should reset a search. Andy, we use that phrase a lot. Where let's go back for a second. Let's just talk about this as a job. Putting all that other stuff aside, I think we've contextualized enough. So as a job, this would reset almost any search in America, right? So in other words, the way Florida reset the search, the way Penn State allegedly reset the search. Accordingly, what we suggested on this program and what I think I would tell anybody working one of these is that you take the home run swings, right? You call Marcus Freeman and you call Dan Lanning and you call all the guys that you think you think would be the best possible candidate.
Yeah, Marcus Freeman, Dan Lanning, Kurt Signetti, you call all them, they're going to all say no.
Sure. I don't know what the methodology here is on December 11th, trying to get this done ostensibly before the new year. I don't know if you have to run an abridged search. I don't know. There is also the Michigan of all this, which is that Michigan is a bespoke job, not the way like say a BYU is, where there's an actual religious concern or something like that. But Michigan has its peculiarities in what it wants in terms of a CEO.
Yeah, I'm gonna push back on that because I would have said that 5 years ago.
Okay,
Michigan's just a straight up good job. Like they're playing ball. Like
no.
The Ellisons.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
It's a top 5 job, Andy. That's my point. I'm talking about Michigan's personal preferences might exclude some candidates that other jobs like Florida or Ohio State or Alabama would take. So I'm not.
I don't think that's an issue either, though. Michigan has the holier than thou has all fallen away. If the last few years
fallen away and
of that,
yes, fallen away and forcibly power washed off are two different things. I think there's still a belief inside that structure, that power structure at Michigan, that the Michigan man, it's a bit now. But I do believe that there are some candidates out there that might be excluded because this is Michigan. And so what I'm getting at here is that I think they're under a little bit of a crunch here because there isn't an obvious number one guy. You know, there are a couple of jobs that if they were to open right now, there'd be an obvious, they're going to go chase X or they're going to make X say no. I don't have one now, mainly because that guy just got announced in Happy Valley.
Yeah.
Matt Campbell would have been, let's say Michigan had opened the day after the Ohio State game. We would have put out our hot boards and Matt Campbell would have been at the top of the Michigan hot board. That's all there is to it. But he's firmly ensconced in Penn State right now. So who does that leave? I mentioned Kalen DeBoer, who seems to top the wish list, but I think that's a wish. I don't think that's all that realistic possibility. We'll see if I'm proven wrong on that.
Yeah, we'll see.
I would go after Kenny Dillingham because I think he could succeed anywhere. He's been in the South. He's been in the Pacific Northwest. He's back at home in Arizona right now. He has won quickly at Arizona State. He inherited a dumpster fire and turned it around. He develops quarterbacks really well. You put him with Bryce Underwood. And the Bryce Underwood piece of it is the other thing. Bryce Underwood, for those who don't know, Michigan's quarterback, #1 overall recruit last year, recipient of one of the biggest NIL deals in history. You guys tell me. I don't think this chases Bryce Underwood from Michigan. I'm assuming the deal terms probably would keep Bryce Underwood at Michigan anyway.
Right.
But I think you're hiring a coach to take over Bryce Underwood, not to have to convince him to stay or to find another quarterback.
If they hired Kenny Dillingham, I would struggle to form a crossword against the Michigan football program. I think that would be incredibly insightful of them, but you'd have to pardon me right now if I believe that they won't be that insightful in terms of finding a head coach.
Well, let me throw some other names at you. Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri, and you're going to say, but guys, didn't they just sign extensions?
Yeah.
Yes, they did. But this is a different like Godfrey just said, this is one of those reset searches. And the other piece of this is usually when you have a coaching change, you're buying out the old coach. They are not buying out the old coach.
And they will
also some of these new deals that were signed. We don't know, I guess, to the extent as much about Clark Lee's because Vanderbilt is private, but Eli's, the buyout to leave didn't change. I mean, his buyout to leave, I think it still remains at $4 million. So obviously it would be sort of unusual for three or 4 weeks after a coach announcing that he'd stay, and he personally announced it, I think himself, like on his social media. It would be unusual, but we live in pretty unusual times. Yes. So it's, I think you guys have hit all the names that I've heard too, right?
One more.
Okay.
Jed Fish at Washington.
Yes, Jed. He's definitely.
Whose season ends on Saturday.
Yeah.
In the bucked up LA Bowl hosted by Gronk. And that will not be the first. That will not be the only time I say that during this episode.
Yeah. It'll be the last year you say it, apparently. Brett, your guy Brett McMurphy just reported it's the last year of the bowl, of the LA Bowl. They're ending the LA Bowl.
No. So. The grand tradition of the LA Bowl of like the last
the sanctity
6 years?
of anything that says hosted by Gronk. What a terrible stain on the American
I mean,
fabric.
Jimmy Kimmel had it before, and he nearly got canceled. So you got to be careful.
You can't kill Gronk with conventional weapons. I think we've established that.
Well, especially when he's bucked up. Bucked Up is a supplement company, by the way. I had to look it up. All right, guys. So those are the names that we've heard. Kalen DeBoer, Kenny Dillingham, Eli Drinkwitz, Clark Lee, Jed Fish. We may see some other names pop up. The other name that I think has been very popular is Jesse Mentor, who's the former Michigan defensive coordinator. He's currently the Chargers defensive coordinator with Jim Harbaugh. And the issue with Jesse Mentor is he is under a show cause penalty. And everybody's like, oh, it's because of the Connor Stallions stuff. Well, it was attached to the Connor Stallions case, but it's actually for sending text messages to a recruit about a visit that he wasn't supposed to send. But there's a one-year show cause where he cannot be employed in an athletic capacity until it ends, and it is not over until late spring, early summer.
I'll put out a prediction. I'll be the fool here. Something tells me with the way that the current firing of Sherrone Moore and the things that are going on around it off the field in civil, criminal potential, all those worlds, that combined with Stallions, combined with the criticism, combined with what may be to come, I would have a really hard time thinking Michigan is going to reach backwards, so to speak, and touch any single person from the Harbaugh, Sherrone Moore era. I think if anything, what this is going to demand is a full system reset. And so I would all but eliminate Mentor, if only because of his association with the previous regime.
Well, and there's also the more likely reason that Mentor is not a candidate, because even like you could actually
they're going to the
come
playoffs,
up
baby.
with a way to hire him. Well, not just that. There aren't many hot NFL coordinators this year to get NFL head coaching jobs. He's one of them. He's probably going to be an NFL head coach next year.
Cool. Does he want to coach Falcons?
He might. Maybe the Giants.
Give me a warm body. I think much like Harbaugh, I think the move here is to stay in the NFL. This washes you. Hey, look at Chris Kiffin, right? Like, someone who may or may not be, coming back to college football. It's good to go to the pros and maybe
he's been in college football. So
no, but I'm saying like he went to the pros when he had NCAA issues, if you will. So let your show cause expire. Go coach in the NFL. Then maybe you come back later. But I don't think Michigan wants
Kelvin
to reach
Sampson
backwards.
says that's the A-OK way to go. So
absolutely.
Now, this search will be interesting. Right now, we're assuming Ward Manuel conducts the search. That also could change depending on all the stuff we talked about at the front of the show.
It's 10:30 a.m. on December 11th. We should qualify.
Yeah. Make sure we put the timestamp there.
Eastern
we
time.
know,
Sorry.
we know how, Andy mentioned it earlier, we know how influential sort of the board at Michigan is. We've talked a lot about the board of Michigan this fall because of the Big Ten private equity deal, and how they were pretty much at the center of stopping that from happening. They have an interim president, as you mentioned. They are soon to hire a president. I think they will hire a president by the end of the year, is what sort of I've been led to believe. And I'm guessing that president will be hired too late to be involved in the coaching search. But perhaps not. Perhaps they do it even quicker, maybe the next week or two. And that president, I'm sure, will have a pretty big decision to make when he arrives at the school, which is the future of Ward Manuel. But for now, from what I've been led to believe, Ward is going to lead the search and is at the center of it. But yeah, the president change could sort of impact some things.
Well, and Ward is interesting because there's been a lot of criticism of his hiring and firing at Michigan. His last one, though, is pretty good. He hired Dusty May to coach the basketball program. And if you have not looked, Michigan basketball is an absolute wagon right now. So he is riding a little momentum off of that. But I think there's a lot of questions around Ward Manuel, and I think that may be what they do. I was trying to remember, guys, and perhaps one of you remembers better than me. The last time I can remember a head coach and an AD going at the same time was actually Houston Nutt and Pete Boone at Godfrey's alma mater, Ole Miss.
That is
and
true.
They went Archie Manning-led search committee to hire Hugh Freeze as the football coach, and then hired Ross Bjork as the AD
After
later.
the fact, Freeze famously texted a random guy with the last name Manning in Mississippi for a couple of weeks because he thought he had Archie's phone number. And then he turned out to be a totally organized individual after that.
Still got the job.
The Boone Nutt was like a Reservoir Dogs style ending where they basically they sealed each other's fate because they were fighting that year, from what I recall.
As tended to happen when Houston Nutt was your football coach.
Yeah, or Pete Boone was your AD, as David Cutcliffe.
Didn't this happen? I don't know why. I feel like it's happened more recently than that. Arkansas, Jeff Long or something, maybe.
Oh yes,
no,
Jeff Long, Brett Bielema.
I feel like
you're exactly right.
I feel like that happened. Yeah. The Hogs.
Jeff Long, one of his 9 lives in college athletics.
He's on the CFP selection committee too. Old Jeff
didn't
Long.
He get
He's
clipped?
Back, baby.
Didn't he get clipped in the Miles saga at Kansas? What that time Miles got fired?
Yep, that's
so
true
Jeff
too.
Long is the answer several times. So basically, yes.
right.
By the way, Jeff Long,
non-Jeff Long,
Michigan
in
man,
the non-Jeff Long division,
Michigan man,
Michigan man, Jeff Long. That's right.
Michigan
you
man.
guys are great at this. You guys are fantastic. Miles to Michigan.
Oh, well, that was, he went to coach his damn strong football team in the state of Delaware.
Damn strong football team.
Everything and everything turned out okay.
So if we had to predict, when do we think Michigan has a head coach in place? I'm thinking it's going to be sometime next week.
Let's say, or we pick. This is like a pick'em segment now.
Pick'em date here.
I'm just giving a date range. We're not going to handicap candidates.
I'm going to say December 21st.
Okay, December 21st is probably what. This is what I was going to pick because it would allow potentially. So let's allow for the biggest possibility.
If you wanted to talk to Kalen DeBoer, maybe he lost to Oklahoma.
Correct. I think this allows for the biggest possibility, which is that they were to take someone like Kalen specifically, or someone else in the playoff. Although I don't know who it would be in the first round off the top of my head.
Well, all the other coaches have other jobs that are in the first round.
I'm not trying to scare Mike Elko.
They're not going to hire Pete Golding,
A&M fans. Oh my God. Sorry. Hugh Freeze is available.
They're probably going to ask about Mike Elko at A&M and probably be told no.
As I'm
led to understand.
Yeah, I don't think landing's a possibility here. I'm just saying these things out loud. Maybe I can contradict myself later.
Chesney already has a new job.
Yeah. Summerall has a new job.
It would be Summerall has a new job.
Okay, so I would agree with Ross and say, I would say news will break from the Ross and Ross type individuals. Let's say on the 22nd. Ross, go ahead and put that in your calendar for me, okay, bud? And
then I do love Ross and Ross type individuals.
Yeah,
Ross and all the ones who want to be him.
Sure.
So I would say by Christmas Day we have something. We have a grip and grin photo talking about virtue and honor in Michigan.
I love that. And the people who never went to journalism school, I hope you can understand from context what a grip and grin photo is. It's the one they tell you never to use.
Yeah.
But it's the one everybody sends you because they think, this is the one everybody wants to see. It's our guy with it's also usually with a big check, like a novelty oversized check.
Yeah.
But
I do that a lot when people are like, "Hey, let's get a picture." I'd be like, "Cool, shake my hand like you just won something." I always think that's hilarious. I learned that from David
Fingerprints
Letterman.
are amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Like anytime it's like, "Hey, let's get a picture." I'd be like, "Cool, shake my hand like you just won a car." And then it's a better photo every time.
I feel like Pat Sajak has to be involved when that happens. That's the only person whose hands I want to be shaking when I've just won a car.
Yeah.
All right, guys, there's not much else we can advance the Michigan story with right now, but a story that is continually advancing, the fallout from the college football playoff final ranking reveal. We knew that the commissioners were going to be talking about the format anyway. They extended the deadline to January 23rd. Now it seems like momentum has seriously picked up to talk about a 16-team playoff for 2026. Ross Dellenger has been all over that in Vegas. We'll talk about it when we come out. We're back at the College Football Enquirer, and a reminder, if you want to see the state of Ross Dellenger's hotel room, and I don't mean this particular one, I mean pretty much every episode when he's in a hotel, and that's a lot of them. It's always fun to just turn on your smart TV, find the Yahoo Sports Network icon, click it, and you can watch all of the Yahoo Sports Network shows, including the College Football Enquirer, and you can see Ross mainlining coffee right now because he's in Las Vegas, and it is very early in the morning there.
Bed's never made.
God.
Also,
no bed
you're
made.
at a hotel.
No.
You shouldn't have to make your own bed at a hotel. But anywhere, anytime, any device, phone, tablet, laptop, you name it. YahooSports.tv is the address. Go to YahooSports.tv, click on the College Football Enquirer, and here we are in living color. Gentlemen, Ross, you have been in Vegas. You have been talking to the commissioners, the athletic directors, everybody who moves and shakes in the world of college football. And boy, the number 16 seems to have come up a lot this week.
Yeah, it has. So the commissioners met. Well, 3 of them met in person here on Tuesday, 1 virtually, zoomed in. Tony Petitti did not make the trip to Vegas, but Jim Phillips and Greg Sankey and Brett Yormark were all here and met at the Bellagio Casino in one of the convention rooms that I couldn't find. I was trying to stake them out, and man, there's too many convention halls. I could never find them, but they were in there somewhere, and they met. And I think that there's more sort of growing alignment or momentum toward going to 16 and potentially going to 16 as soon as next year, now that they've extended the deadline to decide on format. ESPN extended the deadline to January 23rd. It was originally December 1st. And the holdup and the biggest hurdle, obviously, is the Big Ten. And we know that the Big Ten and SEC have to agree for a format to be adopted based on the MOU that was signed last spring. And right now, the Big Ten, I think, is still certainly pushing back on 16. They want a bigger field. They want multiple automatic qualifiers for individual conferences, as we've talked about. They're basically going back and forth between 16 and this 24-team model that the Big Ten has proposed. But it seems to me that basically 10 of the 11 members of the CFP governing board, 10 FBS conferences and Notre Dame's athletic director, that 10 of the 11 are in favor of the 16. And the Big Ten one is more in favor of this 24. But the Big Ten, I think, is showing some signs, right, that there's a possibility in taking the initial step in the evolution of maybe a future expanded playoff of 20-plus teams, the initial step being 16. So we'll see if they get there with the Big Ten and see if they come across the line, so to speak, and can all agree there'll be some more meetings here in the next couple of weeks, I believe, and then they will present models to the full CFP board. I would guess at the championship game, they usually always meet. The presidents usually meet there at every championship game, and we'll see where it goes from here. But another topic, which we've talked about on the show before, that hasn't been discussed in the room, and it wasn't discussed Tuesday, but it's starting to percolate and get a lot of momentum behind it, which is ending the weekly ranking shows. Jim Phillips came out in agreement with Pete Bavacqua on ending or limiting the ranking shows.
Ross, this was you, bud. I really feel like you were the first person to speak out against this, even on our show. Like, you don't really have the takes. You leave that stupid stuff to us. But you had a disdain for this, as anyone should. So congrats, man. That's great.
I think
is it officially dead? But like,
no. And in fact,
also, can I ask you something real fast? Do they have the power to do that?
No, then that's why it's not dead, right? Because the ESPN, they're contractually obligated in the ESPN deal to do the 5 ranking shows before the final. So ESPN would have to agree.
But they could say we're not going to do that. There's probably a financial give back to ESPN.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. The thing is that the 2 most powerful people in that CFP room, Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, have not weighed in on this. Greg Sankey didn't make himself available here in Vegas. He was here, but he was not as available as the others.
He was playing slots.
And so we, I'm sure. And so we don't exactly know what he thinks. But I will say John Steinbrecher, the MAC commissioner, told me here that for years now, and I think I brought this up on the pod a few weeks ago, for years now, commissioners have privately discussed this potential. And his quote was, the ranking shows, hold on, I'm trying to get his actual quote, exactly what he told me. The ranking shows aren't necessarily a positive sort of for the process. And that has been discussed in private in the CFP meeting room by the commissioners now for a while. And Bob Bowlesby has mentioned that to me, that I think his quote to me a couple of years ago on stopping the ranking shows was, we tried to do that, or we have suggested that, but quote, ESPN would flip out.
Ooh, well, let them flip out then.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
All you have to say is it's our committee and we're not giving you any rankings. So find a way to fill 30 minutes between 2 basketball games 5 times every fall.
Well, Andy, it's funny that
with an alternative show. And we already came up with it. Godfrey and I came up with it on Sunday. It's easy. It's Saban, McAfee, Heather Dinich, Booger McFarland. You add some more people. Bill Connolly. Like you employ these people. Make a show with them. Have them hazard guesses at the rankings. Like have Bill do an advanced stats presentation for everybody, and then they decide how they're going to do it, what it's going to look like. And you can say, well, but then the committee rankings may surprise us. Okay, that's fine.
Well, the NCAA tournament field in basketball surprises us every year.
Yeah.
And we all managed to live. By the way, if the MAC commissioner's talking about this, the first 2 were, I think 3 of those shows are buttressed by MAC content on those weeknights.
Yeah.
If they don't want it, then there's really no reason for it.
Actually, the MAC games are on ESPN too. It's usually early season college, like
basketball.
Marquee,
It's college
non-conference
basketball.
college basketball.
Yeah. But I'm saying if you don't tune in adjacent to that because there's football on, then the MAC would know a thing or two about bending your entire product around television.
Well, it's also it's not about the ratings of the show. Because the shows don't deliver massive ratings. It is the ability to create the conversation. And guess what?
It is making
if you have a video with Nick Saban arguing about who he thinks are the best teams, that will generate just as much conversation as your awkwardly stilted interview with whatever AD you're talking to.
It's making every editor or every show producer, in our case here at Yahoo, say, hey guys, this is happening. We need to hit it. Right. Every media outlet feels this necessary pull, whereas every single person I talk to who actually does the media part of it, they're like, this sucks. It doesn't matter. We got to fake these arguments for a week. Then we got to do arguments again next week. And I think a lot of people at ESPN got pissed off because we started calling the thing what it was after a while. We weren't having the manufactured arguments they wanted. We just kept saying, this doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. I've never seen more rank and file reporters, journalists covering the sport identify something as superfluous as strongly as I've never seen this many people speak out against something like they have even this season.
Their own people, right? We saw Kirk Herbstreit mention it on one of the broadcasts. So our producer, TJ, was asking some questions in the chat that I was going to get to actually, and I wrote about in that story yesterday. If they don't publicly, have or reveal the rankings and have a chair and have a show, they're going to still do the rankings, right? I mean, I was talking to some CFP people here, and they will still need to do a ranking, meet in Dallas, do a ranking in private every week and discuss the teams leading up to it. But, what does anything
Well,
seep
and
out,
that's
right?
just to make sure they're
from the
actually doing their
rankings?
due diligence, right?
Yeah.
To make sure everybody on the committee is actually doing the work.
Right. So the thought is that, well, they just won't do it publicly. Now, the one thing here, and Bob Bowlesby, I think we talked about this years ago, he suggested, again, limiting the rankings in some way, not getting rid of all of the ranking shows, not getting rid of all of them, but doing two, one final and one in the middle, like one early November maybe or something like that.
What the basketball committee does now.
Right. And that was mentioned here by a few people. I think that was mentioned as, hey, maybe we just drop one list of rankings.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, ESPN and the CFP may have a discussion about this going forward, more in a more serious nature, but they certainly will have to come to some agreement.
Well, what happened here, and the committee didn't do what it's supposed to do here, because they got very caught up in what had happened most recently when they did that first ranking. And you're supposed to consider the whole resume as if the season has just ended.
Right.
And they didn't do that. They ranked Miami as if they assumed Miami would lose again.
8 spots
Miami never
behind
lost.
Notre Dame. Yeah, 8 spots behind Notre Dame. That was a real, I think we talked about it on the show when that came out.
My jaw dropped.
That was a real
If you
shocking.
watch the reaction show that I did as they were revealing that one, my jaw just drops. I'm like, what in the world is going on here?
Yep. And it put them in a bad place, right? It put them, it kind of cornered them to where, they got into the finale where they felt like, they
were going to look stupid either way. And boy, did they ever look stupid. So one other question, Ross, about the 16-team playoff. Format-wise, are we talking about just adding 4 first-round games, 1-16, a pure 16-team bracket, not stupid double buys?
No. I don't believe no double bye.
Your hands were waving.
I think this would be, this would. They're still talking about particulars around that, but I think this would be just a full 16-team bracket, a normal sort of 16-team bracket with the 5 highest ranked conference champions in the 11 at large.
I really don't want it to go past 12. I like 12. I think 12. I think there's the appropriate amount of drama, and again, I am okay with a flawed but good team being left out. I understand what Pete Bavacqua said this. I think in your story, actually, it might have been Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner, said this, that you shouldn't be leaving out teams that actually have a chance to win the tournament. And that would be probably Notre Dame this year. And I think Texas may feel that way too. Vanderbilt would feel that way. And I understand that argument. I like the drama of it. I think the drama matters. I think the selectivity matters. And this is the most selective, still, even at 12, beyond 4, the most selective tournament in major American sports. Now, it would still be the most selective tournament in major American sports at 16, but I just worry that the next time somebody feels butthurt they got left out, they're like, we got to go to 20 now. Like, you got to stop it at 16. 16 might be your right. Like, the basketball tournament was perfect at 64. They screwed that up. They're going to continue to screw that up. It should go back to 64. Like, don't.
It's never going to stop,
please.
It's never going to stop, Andy. Somebody asked me that here.
It's worth mentioning. Last week, the most famous and most popular sporting event in the entire world, the World Cup draw, happened last week with the expanded format. And I am not a hardcore soccer person. I'm still very much learning the world. But every soccer writer or media person I talk to, they're like, man, that was really anticlimactic. The draw was. They don't have strong groups of death anymore to start a World Cup. If you're a soccer fan, you know what that means. Like, it looks like a watered down product. Now, when it gets there, everyone's going to be super excited, and there's going to be more inventory and more television money. But I like Andy mentioning that the drama matters, because we run a perfect cycle of being outraged when team 60, what used to be 65, now I guess it's 69, 70 in the basketball tournament gets left out, and there's a huge uproar about it. Someone's conference commissioner goes out and does the media stumping and all that. Then we forget, because we have this wonderful product. The wonderful product occurs. We wash, repeat, rinse and repeat every year.
Repent's probably fine too.
Well, in football's case, I think Notre Dame's repenting right now, or wanting us to. I do like the idea. How did you describe them? Talented but flawed? At least one team like that. So last year, this is Alabama last year, who, by the way, threw an absolute conniption. This is South Carolina and Illinois. Alabama goes on, by the way, to lose and basically not I don't know, lost a game to a quarterback was Michigan. Yeah. A Michigan team that didn't play a quarterback. So their argument was kind of null and void. I like that every year. As much as I would love for the Commodores to be in this thing, we can sit on this show and probably explain why hey, look, this is the reasoning why you're the first team out. And we can do that with Texas, too. Notre Dame feels different, and that's probably why we're urging on this change. So I'll throw my hat in the ring and say, yes, 16 would be the ideal cap. Ross, if they did this year and we were at 16 next year, based off of all the conversations you have, how long would we stay at 16?
I think there probably would be like a reevaluation of it after 2 years.
Oh God! So this is the BCS all over again. Every single year we do this. There's a not insignificant modification to the process the following year.
See, 16 makes so much sense. It's a multiple of 4. It's a perfect square. It's a perfect bracket. You don't have any weird buys. You don't have any rules to explain to anybody. I like things that can be explained easily to the casual fan because nothing about this has ever been easy to explain. So,
how about I did a bracket. Of what a 16 team would look like.
On the show on Sunday, Ross. The matchups are pretty spectacular.
I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, Texas Tech hosting Texas, and also in any kind of 16-team bracket, I think there would be at least, I'm not saying it will happen, but there would be at least momentum to have the second round at home. There would at least be some talk about that. I don't know that they will do it, but yeah, there would at least be discussion on, hey, this second round.
Best run still doesn't even make sense in the timeline in which we live. I feel like we're in an alternate universe right now that Indiana is the number 1 team in the country, right? A national title favorite, no game in Bloomington.
Yeah.
No game in Bloomington last year because they're on the road. No game as the number 1 seed in your home stadium. What are we doing? Who are we rewarding here other than NFL stadiums? What are we doing, guys?
Yep.
I feel like the baby at the Penguins game. Yes.
We'll see if they can. I know that's been a talking point for more than a year now on that, and I would guess if they go to 16, that will be more of a talking point. Now, if they do go to 16, there are no buys, so everybody will host a game who's the better seed. So everybody would get
the second round because again, that creates more drama for the regular season. More importance for getting seeded higher, maybe helps make some conference championship games still matter. I think that would be fine. I will never forget when Bob Bowlesby, Greg Sankey, Jack Swarbrick, and Craig Thompson announced their plans for the 12-team playoff several years before it was actually approved. And I asked Bob Bowlesby on the teleconference, why on earth are you putting any games in bowls at all? And he acted like I was insane for asking the question. And the first thing the people asked when it was finally approved is, what the hell are you doing putting these games in bowls? Like, it's stupid.
That was the one thing from plenty of ADs that when that was all released, that was the one big feedback and negativity was, wait a second, if you get one of the top 4 seeds, you're not rewarded with a home game?
Yeah. Because ADs think in terms of parking and concessions and extra revenue streams.
We've talked about this on the show.
Think about the advantage too, just a home field advantage.
There is that.
Yeah. There's a huge financial windfall here for the people who aren't connected to this, who support and build their entire lives around this sport. I've talked about this before, like local hotel owners, bartenders, all of those people that support. You know how we talk about how great this sport is and how wonderful college towns are and how this is so unique, and you got to go to Baton Rouge, you got to go to the Grove, you got to go to Wisconsin. Those people need to share in the profit of this. We do not need to give the Peach Bowl or the Cotton Bowl a 17th game.
No, and here I live in a small college town. Like lots of businesses here in Gainesville, Florida, budget based on 7 home games a year.
Yes.
If a home game were taken away, they're probably not in the black for the year.
Yeah.
If a home game were added, It's an incredible it's like the greatest Christmas bonus of all time.
Yeah, what's the net on a home game in the SEC? A big home game is probably $3 to $5 million, maybe.
I put it this way:
that's just ticket handle. That's not that's not everything else. So
there are hundreds, if not 1,000 or so, people in these SEC towns that will like make their rent, pay their bills. Like this is something that we talk about all the economics of this. Let it trickle down the way it should. Don't hand it. Look, I love Atlanta, I do, but like don't give it like the Mercedes-Benz does not need another game.
No. Beyonce's going to come to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Beyonce's not coming to the Swamp.
Yeah.
Well, and the Bowls
one day they'll get professional football there. They'll make a ton of money.
I think when you get to the semifinal too, and certainly the championship game, there's a belief in the industry you'd want more of a neutral site. But like beyond, before you get to the semi, but I'll be honest, like even in the semifinal, I look at the FCS playoffs. Their semifinals are this weekend, right? Or no, maybe next week.
No, they got this round, the next round.
But I mean, they're at home, and I think Montana and Montana State may end up being matched up in a semifinal next weekend. Yeah, and like, could you imagine that will be a home game? It's not in some neutral site.
It's a Brawl the Wild. It'll be a Brawl the Wild sequel.
Right?
Yeah,
sequel.
Yeah. And Montana won as the favorite team, but a lower seed technically, or a lower rank at the time. And Ross, that's a great example because you want to talk about revenue and television attention. Game. Oh, dude, you got to go to a Brawl of the Wild.
I know, got to go.
The Big Sky. Hey, shout out to the Big Sky. I know they listen to the show because they DM me. So shout out to the Big Sky.
Yeah, they do.
Andy, at what point are we comfortable? Maybe Ross just laid it out. I would be. Hey, by the way, I do think the Rose Bowl is full of it, and I make fun of it all the time. If you made the Rose Bowl the final destination every year, I wouldn't argue with it. Now I know they won't do that.
I have said make Pasadena College Football's Omaha. I think that would be awesome.
Yes.
I would be fine if you had a 16-team playoff with the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl, because those are the only two bowls that actually have real tradition that matter. The Cotton Bowl had real tradition, but they don't play it in the Cotton Bowl anymore.
Correct.
So like,
Peach
if you
has
played
always
it in the
been
actual Cotton Bowl, then maybe, but Jerry World eliminates that.
The Peach has always been a little overinflated with their tradition, unless you are really from that city. It doesn't really
Rose Bowl and Sugar Bowl as semis, and then you could bid out the championship game like you would the Super Bowl. I could live with that.
Yeah. And geographically, that would make a lot of sense, right? Your Eastern team would play in the Sugar, and your Western would go to the Rose Bowl.
So you're saying, okay, so it would be the final, and then the semis would be at neutrals. Everything else is at home. Is that just so I'm clear? Okay,
I could live with that. I would prefer home stadiums up until up through the semis. But
the last thing
I know, people.
The last thing we need to fix is this playing on Thursday night, Friday night crap as a lead in. And I know that's because they're trying to stay out of the NFL's way.
Fixed. Yeah,
the NFL is the problem.
It is so terrible and anticlimactic.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, like the first round, we got Texas A&M and Miami kicking off at 11 a.m. local time in College Station.
Yeah, for those who don't know, because I've been asked that question this week, why is the best game of Saturday at noon? Because they have sold the other games to TNT. And those are the games that have to compete against NFL games. Last year, the NFL played in the afternoon. This year, they're playing in the late afternoon and a primetime game. That is why those games are there. That is why A&M Miami's at noon Eastern.
Yeah,
I had people from my alma mater texting me.
College Station are thrilled about it.
I had people from my alma mater texting me, and they're like, "What time do you think the Ole Miss game will be in the first round?" I said, "Whatever time the NFL game is, because they're going to ship y'all off to die against the G5."
Exactly. And there's a Bears Packers game in primetime. That's the one going against Oregon James Madison. So we can imagine how that's going to go. Gentlemen, you mentioned the FCS playoffs.
Yeah.
I believe Steven Godfrey's got a feeling about an FCS playoff game. We've also got the Army-Navy game. We've also got
this is my weekend, boys. I'm so excited. We've
also got the Bucked Up LA Bowl presented by Gronk, hosted by Gronk, and the Heisman Trophy. We'll talk about it all when we come back. Welcome back to the College Football Enquirer. Big weekend. Usually this is kind of the weekend of rest, but it's big, and this is obviously, big, huge weekend for Godfrey. FCS playoffs are really in the thick of things right now. But we'll start out with the Heisman Trophy. We have 4 finalists for the Heisman Trophy. Indiana's Fernando Mendoza and Vanderbilt's Diego Pavia. And that's where you go, wait, what? Because those schools, if one of them wins it, can trade off that for a generation. But also Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame and Julian Sayin from Ohio State. Obviously, Notre Dame and Ohio State have rich tradition of producing Heisman Trophy winners. This is interesting. The odds-on favorite, guys, is Fernando Mendoza. Anthony Thompson finished second in 1989, I believe. That's as close as Indiana's ever come to winning the Heisman Trophy. But the idea of an Indiana or Vanderbilt player winning the Heisman Trophy is wild.
There's
wild.
Yo, there's some saltiness down here in Nashville and other SEC towns. All of a sudden, this is what the Diego Pavia conversation has sprouted. A bunch of SEC fan bases trying to figure out, wait. Would Vanderbilt have a Heisman winner before we do? And it's hitting home in Knoxville. It's hitting home in Oxford. It's hitting home in Starkville. All these places that don't have Heisman winners that they can tout. Man, it's really bringing out the shade, the spice in a lot of these SEC fan bases. I hope he wins just for the fun of that.
For that reason.
Well, I mean, and like I've spent some time around him. I know y'all have as well. Like he's Diego Pavia. He's fantastic for the sport.
I had a vote, obviously, and I opened up the voting deal, and I had in mind who I was going to vote for. And then you go to like the stats and you just start reading stuff and you start comparing things. And I don't think I'm supposed to reveal yet who I voted for. But
you can.
Let's just say it was really hard when you look at statistical totals and what a player like means to his team. It's really hard not to give a really intense look at the guy in Nashville for sure.
Well, and that's the thing. So Ross and I are voters. We can't, if we want to keep our votes, we can't tell you who we voted for till after they announce it. So we'll tell you on Sunday. But I thought this was one of the more difficult decisions in a while.
Yeah.
So I will leave it at that. And then Sunday we can talk about who we voted for and why we voted for him. And I'm genuinely curious to see who wins. The odds seem to really favor Fernando Mendoza. But again, I don't know, guys. All I know is anecdotally who I've talked to and other voters who've told me. And so it doesn't feel as cut and dried to me from talking to other people. So we'll see about that.
Pavia. I can say that. I'm not a voter.
You can say whatever you want. Yeah.
Yes.
Gentlemen.
Yeah.
It is time for I've Got a Feeling.
You think football is still fun? I feel great, man. I got a bad feeling about this.
I know what you're thinking. Well, you're like, but the games. No, there are games this weekend.
Baby.
Yeah.
Godfrey, FCS Playoffs. You start us there.
Yes, and then I can add context because I think you're picking Army Navy, right?
I am picking Army Navy, yes.
Ross is going bucked up. That's what Ross is doing. How many times do we get it in? 5, 6? They're going to start sending us some of that stuff. I don't know if I'll take it.
Give me some pre-workout.
It seems a little scary. I'm just going to stick with a cup of coffee, like a man.
What is that? Wait, what is the?
No,
what
bucked up is a pre-workout. Isn't it? Or
really?
is it a post-workout?
It's a supplement company.
Yeah.
Pre-workout,
really?
Stuff like
Andy
that.
and I, I think you were on the phone doing journalism. Andy and I were trying to figure out what bucked up was. Because we want to get bucked up.
That's the real journalism, Godfrey. That's the real journalism.
And that's why you sponsor a bowl, because I had never heard of this company, and now we've mentioned it how many times
and now
in this
I'm
hour?
grab it before I work out here in a minute.
I picked mainly, again, I don't always use my I Got a Feeling wisely in terms of like winning the competition with my co-host. I just want to highlight something, which is that if you're unfamiliar with the FCS playoffs, the overwhelming favorite was number 1 seed North Dakota State. Boys, they're out. They're out. Scrappy Illinois State in a shocking upset in Fargo last week knocked off the Bison 29-28. I would like to highlight UC Davis, their opponent this weekend. I'm also picking them at 2.5. That is Tim Plow, the former OC at Boise. UC Davis Aggies, I kind of like them now with the Bison out of the field. If I had to predict, the FCS playoffs kind of have a bad habit the last couple of years of going pretty chalk. So if you know those 5 or 6 teams, the Dakotas and the Montanas, chances are you're going to see some representation from them at the championship game at Vanderbilt Stadium in Nashville. I like UC Davis potentially to play spoiler with that and come in from one side of the bracket. As Ross alluded to earlier, it looks like we are setting up for a Brawl of the Wild rematch on the other side of the bracket with number 3 Montana and number 2 Montana State. However, a lot of Texas representation this year. Stephen F. Austin, Tarleton State, who upset one of the FBS teams we're about to talk about, Andy. So still a lot of quality football there. I'm going to go with UC Davis this weekend to beat the usurper Illinois State.
All right. I am going to talk a little Army Navy, and you can help me out here, Godfrey, with this one.
Yes, sir.
So Navy is a 6.5-point favorite, and with very good reason. They've been excellent this year. Blake Horvath is an incredible quarterback, runs that offense so well. Eli Heidenreich is an absolute revelation. 800 receiving yards at Navy, averages 20 yards a catch. Godfrey, you got some context here.
I do. So Navy, the name Drew Cronick has bounced around a couple of these coaching searches. I know you guys have heard about this. I need to have a little mea culpa. I didn't do it on this podcast, but I did it previously. When Chet Gladchuk, the AD at Navy, fired Ken Niumatalolo after it was one of the Army-Navy games, it was considered to be a really uncouth thing. Obviously, Ken built, he was the author of the streak over Army for such a long time. They promoted the DC Brian Newberry, and one of the reasons why was that Gladchuk had also interceded and forcibly fired Ivan Jasper, the former OC, a year prior, and then Ken kind of rehired him in a different position. There was a real push-pull. So for a while, it looked like Gladchuk had overreached, and there was a lot of anger towards him. Since that time, Navy has regained, albeit temporarily, the superiority amongst the service academies, and they did it by doing what Gladchuk wanted, which was modernizing this offense and doing something that looks a little
modernizing different. Is not the... Okay.
Hey, contextually, this is modernizing.
Throwback. So Drew Cronick is the OC. He was the head coach at Mercer. He ran the wing T at Mercer.
Right.
So
but that's not what he's running here.
A mashup of the wing T and the flex bone. Correct. And it's a beautiful baby of two 1970s offenses.
But they're also adding more downfield pass, and what they're doing is it really takes a lot of the cheating up that talented defenses can do against a triple option and eliminating that. I could talk for a while about this, but one of the hard things that Niumatalolo used to talk about was Navy went to the American long before Army did, about a decade in advance. And they just could not compete when Houston and UCF and Cincinnati and those programs that had proper athletes at 4-star wide receivers, 4-star DBs, that kind of situation. This is where you saw the limitations of Navy. This is also kind of how the streak broke against Army that year that they played in the American Championship game. They were down to their third-string quarterback when they went in. This has been a very interesting evolution in a short order for Navy. They are the superior team. Now, Andy, there's one other rivalry in college sports that is notorious for this, where you have the obvious better team coming in with more momentum. Mm-hmm. That's Red River. If you're unfamiliar with Army-Navy, I'm not saying that Navy will... I'm not picking an upset here. I'm not picking the game.
I'm picking the game, and I'm glad you're mentioning this because everything seems to favor Navy. Just like last year when Army's coming off crushing Tulane in the American Championship game, and everything seemed to favor Army, and Navy won. Cale Helms, Army quarterback. Noah Short, Army's A-back, who averages 6 yards a carry. I'm saying big game for these guys. Give me Army plus 6.5 because that's how this game goes.
So
wait. I looked. Yeah. Unfortunately, no snow predicted in Baltimore on Sunday.
Oh, that's good because I'm going to be there. I plan on going for the first time. Yeah, I've never been, and it's in Baltimore, so I'm just take the train up from DC. I've never been, and people rave about it, obviously, so I'm excited to see this thing in action.
It is the single best game I've ever attended. I embedded with Army the year they broke the streak against Navy. It was in Baltimore, by the way. Also, the physically coldest I have ever been at a sporting event was standing on the sideline because you have to wear a suit when you're on post for that long and you're at West Point. Like, you show up every day in a suit and tie because of that's the culture. And then you're standing there in a suit, freezing your ass off, which I did. But absolutely amazing game. You'll love it. I didn't know you were going. Cade Helms, by the way, got swapped in. Tarleton State, still alive in the FCS playoffs, opened the year upsetting Army. They made the swap at quarterback, put Helms in. They have been decent, to Andy's point, this year. They are running much more of what you would expect an offense like this to run. I have been on social media throughout, while everyone else was watching important games. I love Academy football and triple option. Army has put together some brutal drives this year, 9-minute drives to end the game to beat Temple by 1 point. If you are down by any measure to Army with 10 minutes left in the game and you punt, the game is probably over. That's the style of football. This is football as God intended. I'm very excited about this game.
And now, more football as God intended. Of course, I speak of the Bucked Up LA Bowl, hosted by Gronk. Boise State versus Washington. Ross, Washington's favored by 9.5 points. Who do you got?
I mean, I got a feeling that Washington is going to win by more than 9.5. That's my feeling. I don't have a reason really why, and I don't know that we have to spend a ton of time talking about the bucked up LA Bowl. But there you go. That's my pick, Huskies.
Well, and the question is Jedd Fisch a candidate for Michigan?
Yeah.
Because you know how these shows work. We always wind up back where we started. And I guess that will be the question probably get asked of Jedd Fisch after this game. We'll see what we find out. We'll probably talk a lot more about Michigan on Sunday. We'll definitely talk about the Heisman Trophy winner, who Ross and I voted for. Also, who knows? Maybe some more bucked up LA Bowl. Bucked up.